Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the MZM Masterclass podcast. Today, I'm joined by Ramon Peralta, founder and CEO of Peralta Design. In this episode, Mr. Peralta and I will be covering all the basics about launching a brand that entrepreneurs and small business owners need to know to get theirs off the ground. Mr. Peralta, would you like to introduce yourself for everyone?
Yes, sure. Thank you for having me, first of all. My name is Ramon Peralta. I'm the founder, and I'm also creative director at Peralta Design, a digital marketing agency where our slogan is, "We launch brands."
That's amazing. So I guess before we get started, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself? How did you get to where you are today? How did you found your company, and what did you do to get there?
Yeah, sure, man. I am what you would call a reluctant entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is I never set out to start a company. I was always an employee first. And I think I always had my design business, if you will, as a side hustle. So I've worked in a number of places, the newspaper. I was most famously on the team that started Priceline.com back in 1998. I've had stints at some direct mail marketing agencies as well. And I always kind of did my flyer design, graphic design, logo design on the side. Always had a computer at home, and kind of never saw myself as being a business owner per se full time, because I always was after that steady paycheck, and in 2008, when the recession hit and the market crashed, I was at Walker Digital, which was the incubator that created Priceline. And I had been working there for 10 years after Priceline launched in 98, starting multiple startup companies and being on the team that handled the creative and the branding. And I found myself laid off. And I had a 6-month severance package, which equates to 6 months salary. And it was a very difficult time to find employment, which was my first instinct. And so after some soul searching, I realized that maybe this was all a blessing in disguise, and that maybe my purpose was to help other people launch their businesses. I felt that there were probably a lot of people in my shoes that were displaced from their employment, that had a lot of experience and that needed to start their own business and didn't know how. So I took my knowledge and my skills that I had learned on the job of how to launch a company quickly, and I gave birth to Peralta Design, where we launch brands.
That's amazing. So, Mr. Peralta, you specialize in branding, is that correct?
Yes.
And so throughout this episode, as I mentioned, we're going to be covering all the basics that you guys need to know about branding and how you can also launch your brands just like Mr. Peralta does. So for the first topic, I wanted to cover just the fundamentals of branding, like what it is. And I guess my question for you is, what is branding? Why is it crucial for small business owners to have a brand?
Right. And it's crucial because right now it is the consistent branding is actually the fastest way to differentiate yourself from your competitors. People aren't going to read. They're not going to sit through a video. They're not going to listen to your sales pitch. So you need to come up with a way to be memorable, repeatable, recognizable. And oftentimes it's using a consistent iconography or symbol for your business, having a memorable and repeatable slogan for your business, having a corporate color palette, and then making sure that that is being consistently communicated across multiple consumer touch points. So, branding, I would say, arguably is more important than ever. In fact, Jeff Bezos is famous for saying that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Mm-hmm. So, you have to be known for something. And I think a common mistake many entrepreneurs make is they try to do everything for everyone, and then you don't really stand out. So I would advise people to be very niche in the beginning, target a very specific audience with a very specific service, and start small. And remember that simple scales.
So I know you kind of touched on this in the last answer, but like what are the top 5 things that go into a successful brand identity? Is it just your logo and your colors, or is it something deeper than that?
Yeah, I think it's very important to, when you're considering the name of your business, if that's your starting point, to realize that your official business name on your LLC or on your corporation does not have to actually be the consumer facing brand. So, for example, for Peralta Design, or PD as we call it, that's the consumer facing brand. People know us by the PD logo. In fact, I don't know if this is going to be on video, but
Yeah.
you can see that there's an icon there, and I recommend all businesses, as part of their branding, along with a typographical brand, have an iconic brand,
Yep.
and also have an acronym for their business. We're seeing a trend towards debranding. Willis Tower Watson is now WTW. Weight Watchers is now WW. The World Wrestling entertainment is WWE. So everything has been distilled down to an acronym, and that's our vernacular right now in today's society. Is we don't say the whole name. Everything's TTYL, BRB, OMW, LOL,
Yeah.
right? So you have to have a distilled down acronym for your brand. You also need to have an iconic representation for your brand that can be used on merch. People love merch. They love swag. Any business right now that you see is going to have gear, whether it's for employee morale or it's for corporate gifts, or it's for their social media, because you're competing with a very small real estate on a screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything on your phone is tiny. So you're oftentimes finding, that you need an iconic representation for that small real estate, especially on social media.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So let's transition towards how we can begin developing
Yes.
these different brand
Yes.
elements and the overall brand strategy. So how can a
Yes.
small business owner define and develop a clear and compelling brand identity?
Yes. So once you have the name of your business down, I think it's important to think of the psychology behind colors, because you do need a corporate color palette that's going to be consistent throughout all of your communication. Imagine bumping into somebody and they drop all of their sales material. You drop all of yours. If your corporate colors are green and theirs are blue, you should be able to collect all of your collateral, if you think of that as a metaphor. The same goes for online. I mean, look at the golden arches. No matter where you go in the world, if you see the golden arches, you know what that cheeseburger is going to taste like, right? There's a consistency and there's an experience that's associated with it. In some cases, a flavor or a smell or a feeling. So, right? So you want to evoke an emotional response with your branding. Having an icon is important. Having a set color palette that has a psychology to it. For example, if you're in finance, you see a lot of companies using green or blue because they evoke trust. If you're in a very competitive market like we are in advertising, we chose red because red is the combination of all colors, and it's the color that's used to get people's attention the most. Right? But you need to find a color that appeals to your audience. So any good brand strategy is going to begin by really having a clear picture of who your ideal buyer is, or I would call it a buyer avatar, right? So spend some time thinking about who would be my best client. Are they old? Are they young? Are they male? Are they female? And that will give you some clues as to how you should communicate to them. For example, if your audience is older people, using a small point size font or using imagery that is I would say very playful, or cartoonish, might not work with senior citizens, for example, that come from a different generation. Whereas if you're appealing to young people, maybe having something that is brighter and has a mascot, or it looks very digital, or might be animated, that might appeal to a younger demographic. So your font selection, is it a serif font? Is it a sans serif font? All of that aligns with your brand personality and your brand identity, which should appeal to your target audience and help you stand out amongst your competition. So do some competitive market research, see what your competitors are doing, follow your competitors on social media, look to see what gets the most engagement for them. You may have clues there, and absolutely look at the data. As you start to experiment with your brand, you know, do a survey, get some feedback, ask your customers, what do they think? And you'll find a lot of valuable data when you listen to your target audience as well.
So, are there any specific tools or like pieces of software that you would recommend someone who's
Absolutely.
just starting out?
Absolutely. I'm assuming a lot of folks listening to your podcast are going to be early stage startups or do it yourself type folks that don't have, you know, the resources to just hire an agency like ours and say, hey, just run with this. I would recommend my book, which is available at launchyourbrandbook.com. It has a lot of tips in there for those folks that are starting out. We actually like Canva. I think Canva has come a really long way. It's very user friendly.
Yeah.
You can create some templates in it. Because again, consistency is key. People aren't always going to read your content, but if they see that it's in the same format, that it always uses the same font, that it always uses the same color, that your logo is in the exact same place on every piece of content, that you use the exact hashtag, that your slogan's repeatable, then it starts to click, and then you start getting on their radar. If you use a different template every day, you might as well be starting over every day with your brand. You're never going to get that momentum. And Canva has some really good tools that will allow you to create some templates. We also like software like scheduling software like Later or Hootsuite that would allow you to schedule these posts so that you hit all the major retail holidays if you're a retail brand, that you if you're a B2B, if your clients are other businesses, then you need to have content scheduled for LinkedIn. If you're more of a consumer brand, you want to be on Facebook. If you're targeting a younger audience, you might consider TikTok, right? So understanding what platform are your customers on, and then using these software that are out there like Canva, Later, the Adobe Suite is also excellent. CapCut is excellent if you're creating video content, all very user friendly, and just kind of go out there. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Start putting out content, get feedback. If something gets a lot of likes, then do more of that. If something doesn't get a lot of engagement, don't do that, right? So look at the data, look at the engagement levels, and have fun with it.
So once small business owners have finally found that core brand identity, they've got that style guide, they got everything that they need, does it just end there, or are there next steps? How can they continue to develop and change their brand identity to stay relevant?
Yes. I think that with the brand identity, that's one component of your branding, but there's also something to be said for the brand story. I really think that business owners need to get better at being comfortable with being uncomfortable, being vulnerable, putting themselves out there and sharing some of that journey of building the business, sharing their fears, sharing their ups and downs. You know, a lot of times we only see the highlight reel on social media. So your brand needs to be relatable to your target audience. And by being relatable, oftentimes that means sharing the narrative of what your company's about and how it started. There's another piece that's very, very important to today's consumer, especially younger people, and that is what social causes are important to your brand. So oftentimes you can align your brand with a well-known social cause, and there's brand equity that it's exchanged there. So for example, Rocky, if you start a new business and all of a sudden you're contributing partial proceeds to Habitat for Humanity, or to the Boys and Girls Club, or to Junior Achievement, or to the United Way, and you align your brand with those recognizable social causes, it does lift your brand up from a brand awareness standpoint and a trust standpoint. And people will also feel like when they support your business, that they understand that a part of their proceeds are going to go towards this cause. And if they find an alignment with that cause, they're more likely to work with you. It could be the Humane Society. You might love puppies and you want to save them. You can always say, hey, these are one of our partners. These are one of the charities we support. We're providing services for this nonprofit, right? That alignment with brands that are relatively unknown, new ones with existing brands that have a lot of cachet or brand trust are a great way to elevate your own brand while also supporting a great cause, which is very, very important to today's consumer.
So thank you so much, Mr. Peralta. That's all the real questions that I have today. Before we end this episode, do you have any final words of advice for any young budding entrepreneurs like yourself?
Yeah, I would say that if you're scared or you're fearful, do it anyway. Just go for it. Follow your dreams. The worst thing that can happen is you might fail, and I like to say that failing is just your first attempt in learning. So as long as you learn something from that experience and you get back up, remember, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. So keep going, keep pushing, and follow your dreams.
All right, great. So thank you guys all for watching as well. If you guys would like to check out Mr. Peralta, do you have any links or social media?
Yes. So on Instagram, we're at Peralta Design. That's PERALTA DESIGN. Our website's peraltadesign.com. And you can find our book on Amazon, as well as launchyourbrandbook.com. And we have a podcast that's now on YouTube, and it's called Mission Control. And that's MISSIONCTRL, Mission Control. So I hope to see you guys there.
Great. So I'll put all those links in the description as well if you guys want to learn more. So thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Thank you, Rocky.